the Sixers made a move last night. Is it a good enough move to put them over the top? Does it even matter? I mean, is there enough stuff going on off the floor in the locker room that regardless of who they get could prevent them from making a deep playoff run? Mike Moshe Ryan taking it till 6 tonight. As you know, 2 players in, but it might not even matter if they got other issues, right? Peace and harmony. Marcus Hayes wrote a great piece that came out yesterday, late on the Inquirer.com, and he joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline as we take a look at this Sixers team. Now, they brought 2 players in, but they have other factors, Marcus. It might not even matter who they bring in. I mean, is there other things happening with this team that regardless of what players they brought in, they might have deeper issues?
Well, no. I mean, yes. I'm sorry. I thought of one thing in response to your question, and you might have been going a different way. There was a report, well, not a report. Al Horford said we were talking through some things in our locker room yesterday, and I was there for that press conference, and I thought you might have been referring to that. If you are, then I don't think that those things are necessarily so contentious that they can't get past them. I don't think that the people are throwing things in the locker room or pointing fingers and they're having a big sort of intervention. Sorry about that. You might be referring to a column I wrote today, which stated that because of the fraternization between the 3 most highly paid players, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Tobias Harris, with the ownership group, including the 2 co-managing partners, Josh Harris and David Blitzer, who are very, very involved in the structure of the team, and Michael Rubin, who is the guy that sort of makes the party happen, a minority owner who owns Fanatics, the apparel company. That undermines what Brett Brown or any coach would try to do, because when the players have the owner's ear, they don't have to listen to the head coach, and they know it.
Right. Well, it's kind of a pot of stew. It's kind of a pot of stew here, Marcus. You got Horford's comments, what you pointed out. You got the stuff that the report today that Embiid and Simmons are jealous of each other. It just sounds like they got so many problems going on. But what you talk about, it's almost that's an unfixable situation if it's really the root of a lot of problems. As you wrote in the article, you could fire the coach, you could trade the players, but if the next group of players comes in or hanging out with the owner, the next coach is going to have the same problem.
Well, I think you're talking about what I saw on Twitter, I think, a clip of Chris Broussard saying that his sources, quote-unquote, are telling him that Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are jealous of each other. They both want to be, quote-unquote, alpha dogs. And, the irony is, the irony is that Keith Pompey, who covers the team daily for the Inquirer and Daily News and Inquirer.com, was on a radio show yesterday. I was driving into the airport, and he was asked, who are the leaders on the team? And he mentioned Tobias Harris and Al Horford. So the 2 alpha dogs aren't leading. It's just that simple. So if you're talking about the Broussard report, I mean, I can address that. 2 years ago, that was absolutely the case, where Ben wanted to take over the team that Joel had sort of begun to take over the season before when he was a rookie. They coexist. They're fine. The 2 things that are at issue with them in particular is Ben wants to play faster and has a hard time doing that with Joel on court. And Joel wants Ben to shoot because he wants the floor to be spread more so he doesn't get double-teamed as much and the double teams aren't as effective. So they don't really have as much a personality issue anymore as they do a sort of a mechanical, logistical issue on the court, which all goes away if Ben Simmons is a responsible point guard who not only further develops his jump shot, but takes the jump shot he's already developed, which is no worse than some of the worst. He's a better shooter now than Lonzo Ball was 2 years ago. And Lonzo Ball wasn't shy. So you got to do what's right. The number one issue, it's a very, very simple issue for the Sixers, and the most fixable one immediately is Ben Simmons' willingness to shoot the ball. The number 2 issue, which would take a couple of weeks and would mean a lifestyle change, is Joel Embiid going to bed at night and eating healthily.
Marcus, what is the yeah, he needs to lay off the chicken sandwiches for sure. But what is Burks and Robinson coming to Philadelphia? What does that do for those issues that you're outlining? Do you think that makes it much easier or the problems?
Well, I mean, they got a little bit more experience and depth off their bench, and they might have gotten a little bit more shooting, but we don't really know what Furkan Korkmaz and Matisse Thybulle are yet because they haven't played enough games. They certainly haven't played enough playoff games to figure out kind of whether they're viable or not. What this does for me is it admits that they made a huge mistake with Mike Scott and a huge mistake with James Ennis, assuming that those guys were going to be versatile bench players who could do a lot of things. They were wrong. That's a huge mistake by Elton Brand. Not huge money-wise, maybe not as huge as overpaying Tobias Harris, which looks to be the case, but huge composition-wise. These are guys that are supposed to be playing 15 to 20 minutes and be pluses for you off the bench. Be the guys that keep that first unit. I mean, if you look at the Sixers' metrics, offensively, defensively, as a starting unit, since they made their midseason trades 2 seasons ago, they've been one of the best starting fives in the league. But, what separates the wheat from the chaff, I mean, the reason those Golden State Warriors were literally unbeatable is they had an Olympic gold medalist and an all-defensive player and an all-star, Andre Iguodala, coming off the bench. They had Sean Livingston, who could have started on every team in the NBA almost, coming off the bench. It's just that simple. They didn't get – they've admitted they don't have their – are they better? They're probably a better team for the team that they've already built. Are they different? Probably not a lot. This certainly doesn't push them. If everything goes great, if they win in Milwaukee tonight and Brett Brown remains the coach and they do everything that they're supposed to do, this still doesn't get them into the Eastern Conference Finals, this move.
Marcus, I'm wondering, we were talking about Ennis and Scott earlier and how last year when they joined the team, they made a positive impact on it. They hit open shots, especially Mike Scott, compared to how they're doing this year. So what changed? To me, it's the way the construct of the team, they went in a totally different direction. So now I wonder if the same hurdles that are holding back Scott and Ennis from this year being as valuable will have to be faced and confronted by Burks and Robinson. They're shooters who come into a system where it's very clunky and not great spacing. Do they help that, or do they become a victim of it?
Well, everybody forgets. Well, that's not true. That's an unfair thing to say. Everybody overlooks the value of an absolute dead-eye Hall of Fame caliber shooter in J.J. Redick.
Right.
I mean, you don't have J.J. Redick anymore. J.J. Redick, not only did J.J. Redick score and set a great example and all that sort of stuff, he took the best perimeter defender off Ben Simmons or Matisse Thybulle or Tobias Harris. You had to account for J.J. Redick every millisecond he was on the court. He was a defensive liability, but he was an overall plus. And that's the big difference. And that makes a huge difference when Mike Scott and James Ennis come in, because they're no longer, playing with the second unit, not the entire second unit, the second rotation with JJ. And people are frenetically looking around for JJ. And they're wide open. Their shots generally are contested. You take Mike Scott out of the corner, he's adrift. And James Ennis is just a guy. He's always been just a guy. I mean, what was sold to the Sixers fans this year, and I thought it was hilarious, was we got Al Horford, so he doesn't have to. He can't defend Joel Embiid anymore, and he's really good. And we got Josh Richardson, who's somebody, who we hope will do 70% of what Jimmy Butler did. That's not enough. That doesn't make you better. That just makes you different. So yeah, there's a lot of disappointment, I think, from the media, Sixers, front office personnel, the coach, and the fans. But I had no idea what they thought they were going to get. The same way I didn't understand all the hoopla around Jake Arrieta 2 years ago with the Phillies and Bryce Harper last year. Those moves didn't address the fundamental issues with the team. One of which is they're not playing hard now, which I believe is a festering problem over several years because ownership has let the players know, we got your back. Even if that's not true, even if they're super supportive of Brett Brown, they've let the players know there will be no accountability beyond us. So don't worry about what the coach says or does.
Marcus Hayes, Inquirer.com. And can you clear up something in the article that you wrote? Because the part where it says the players played like they tuned Brown out. One source familiar with the organization texted a prolonged laugh when addressing the issue. Is that saying that he doesn't buy that they've tuned Brown out?
I'm sorry for the confusion. No, he was laughing at their misfortune.
Okay.
He was saying, ha, 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 I knew this would happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
Someone who's been associated with the organization in the past, and has no real axe to grind, doesn't necessarily wish them ill. But you look around this league, you look at the flotsam and jetsam that they've cast off, and I don't mean to denigrate the people who are no longer here, but they've disassembled themselves several times and pointed the finger at, it was this person, it was this person, it was this person. Those people right now are texting me and anybody else associated with the Sixers because they want to see them fail, because what the Sixers never do, outside of Brett Brown, what they never do is say, we have screwed this up royally since 2013 when Josh Harris bought the team, or 2012 when Josh Harris bought the team, traded for Andrew Bynum on the advice of Doug Collins, who quit on the team over Christmas break while still coaching it, and finished out the year, but admitted, I was having wine in Arizona. You know what? I'm not coaching anymore. And then came back and coached the rest of the year badly. So this has been a joke since Josh Harris bought it, and it's been a joke because of how Josh Harris has run it. That's why the laughter.
Marcus, I'm curious about. I've always been curious about Michael Rubin's role in ownership. He seems like this young, hip, progressive guy. Everybody remembers him getting Meek Mill out of jail. Is he someone that is enabling this kind of buddy-buddy relationship that you wrote about in a very negative way, or is it still more Josh Harris the issue here, or does it even matter about divvying up the blame? I'm just curious about Michael Rubin's role in all this.
Jeff, I've known you for years. I would love you to be around Michael Rubin for a couple of years, because you would be as conflicted with him as I am. Michael Rubin is an incredibly energetic guy, very positive. He has done things with the players and in the organization that are very, very good. And he's done things outside the organization that are very, very good. But that doesn't make him perfect, and it doesn't mean that all his decisions are right. It's not a simple answer.
Sounds like how we talk about Jeffrey Lurie, actually.
To a degree, but, and they both kind of want to be hip and with it, but Jeffrey knows he looks ridiculous when he's trying to be hip and with it with 20-year-old millionaires, 25-year-old millionaires, despite, the younger wife he has now. All that said, yeah, I mean, there is too much fraternization and the wrong type of fraternization. I don't think the owners realize it, and I don't think they realize the enormity of it, and I don't think that I think that going forward, especially with this terrible picture of Michael Rubin picking up Kevin Hart, who looks like he has a drink in his hand, in a Super Bowl suite with the two managing partners looking on, and the three principal players looking on the night before they get blown out for a fourth straight game, fourth straight game by a team that is, they could very well face in the playoffs after the Super Bowl. This wakens them to, look, we can't do this stuff anymore. We have to be more professional. So, no, they're not terrible guys. They just kind of make bad decisions sometimes, and I don't know that they know what to do properly because they're still relatively new at it, right?
Right.
Yeah, and by the way, it looks like James Ennis has been traded to Orlando, so we'll try to get the details on that. Marcus
They got
Hayes.
Markel back.
Yeah, maybe. He's dropping dimes out there. 12 assists the other night. Marcus Hayes with us from the Inquirer. So, obviously, and it was a great piece, and there's a lot in there, and I don't want to keep talking about because I want the people to go read the rest of it that you explain about some of the other things that are happening here. But is this a situation where it's gone too far, or is this the kind of drama that can bring them together after the All-Star break and say, guys, I know all this has been going on. Let's put the pedal to the metal. We got enough talent, and let's get this thing right.
Well, things were worse last year with Jimmy Butler. Considerably worse. There's not a huge rift in the locker room. Guys don't hate Brett Brown. They're just not kind of listening to him. The Brett Brown has had worse relationships with Joel Embiid in the past, and with Jimmy Butler in the recent past. So certainly it's salvageable. They just need to play a little bit better and play a little bit harder. I don't know that they're invested to do it. I don't think that the players think that they can get to the finals and win a championship, and it's really hard to play Game 52 hard in Milwaukee in 18-degree weather on a Thursday night, knowing that there's no June parade in your future. I think they realize what their flaws are, and they're kids, and they're young, and they're tired. And they play in Philadelphia. It's exhausting to play in Philadelphia. It is every sport. It's exhausting to play in Philadelphia compared to most other cities, which makes it great for us, but not so great for them sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting.
Yeah, it's certainly salvageable.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like the point you make is that sometimes we forget that Ben and Joel are still kind of immature guys, right? I mean, when push comes to shove, they're immature, they're young, and Joel has very little basketball experience and very little experience in dealing with the ups and downs of what's going on right now. He might not see anything wrong with this.
Well, that's the thing. They don't really have a lot of, hardcore, this is life in the NBA veteran leadership in that locker room, and never have. It dates back to Hinkie and Colangelo. They have always needed a sheriff. There aren't a whole lot of sheriffs in the NBA, and they hope Jimmy would be one. But Jimmy and Joel had an issue at the beginning of last year. So, and Butler is not the answer when it comes to being a sheriff, but there just aren't a lot of those guys. A lot of those guys in baseball, a lot of those guys in football. The hockey is like 90% of those guys.
Oh, real quick, you mentioned hockey, Marcus. I just want to the story about the Sixers ownership and the Devils. Did you see that story?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
There was a story in the Post a couple weeks ago that suggested that Shiro got fired because essentially the Devils ownership meddled too much, and he basically said, "I got to get out of here," and he got fired. But if they're doing the Devils meddling the way they do the Devils, are we not supposed to think they do that with the Sixers?
Oh, they certainly do that with the Sixers. I mean, yes. I didn't see that story, but I know people who have worked for the Devils, like pretty high up in the front office, and it happens constantly. If you look down the masthead of their corporations, they share like 5 different people in vice president, president, or chairman roles.
Yeah,
they're the same organization. They have 2 or 3 people commuting from Philadelphia to Newark 2 or 3 times a week to run the 2 organizations.
Yeah.
So it's just bizarre. I mean, it's almost like they think they own 2 bakeries, and so all the bakery rules apply to both bakeries.
Marcus Hayes, great piece. Check it out at the Inquirer.com. And he was kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thanks, Marcus.
All right, boys.
See you, Marcus.
Take care.
Man.
Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN.